welcome to our Levendary case presentation for MBA 688. My name is Christine Montani.
Joe Fiala. Kyle Owens.
Hannah Riyad. So Levendary Cafe is a popular chain founded by Howard Leventhal, and after turning a small Denver cafe into a $10 billion business, he stepped down in 2011 as CEO, and Mia Foster, a former president of a U.S. fast food company, took over. It was her first CEO job, and Wall Street was cautious about the company's stock because their domestic business had slowed in growth, and Foster did not have previous international business experience. The company's recent entry into China was being closely monitored, and Louis Chen, the president of Levendary China, was not cooperative with the company's planning and reporting process.
To analyze this case more thoroughly, we created a SWOT analysis on Levendary Cafe. Their strengths are they're a popular chain of 3,500 cafes. Their restaurants have simple cost structures, which include rent, labor, food, and supply. Their customers believe eating at Levendary Cafe made them feel rich. The popular classics at their restaurant in 80% of their locations are the turkey and avocado sandwich with cranberry dressing, their award-winning cheese soup, and the chicken Caesar, which are very popular. Their corporate chefs were highly trained artisans from the Culinary Institute of America and other top cooking schools. They use organic grains and hormone-free naturally raised meats in the sandwiches, which helps their public image. For their weaknesses, their shares traded at a discount compared to comparable restaurant stocks. Analysts were concerned that Levendary's domestic business was nearly tapped out, and analysts were also concerned and skeptical of Foster's ability to build a multinational brand given her lack of previous international management experience. The restaurant and food service industry was highly fragmented, and even McDonald's was only getting 2% of the total revenues of the total market. And restaurants operate on razor-thin margins, so it was very tough to be profitable.
So getting into some opportunities that the company had, the business had grown to $10 billion. In 2010, the U.S. restaurant and contract food service industry was a $600 billion industry, which is growing, and had over 960,000 locations. In China, the opportunities existed because there's a large population. Currently, that population stands at 1.5 billion people. The Chinese population has shown that it has a taste and appreciation for Western food. Examples of companies that have already come into China and brought their American taste are KFC, McDonald's, and others. There's a large and fairly wealthy middle class which doesn't mind paying higher prices for westernized food. For example, McDonald's charges the same prices that it charges in the US, even though local competition in China prices are way cheaper. Regions in China have heavy populations of expatriates, meaning that those expatriates are more willing to try American foods because those foods are more familiar to them. Therefore, this provides pockets in which restaurants can tap into to have a soft launch of their business in China. Analyzing some threats that exist with the entrance into China. If not addressed, cultural adaptation can definitely run a business into the ground. Examples of companies that have failed while trying to enter the Chinese economy are Applebee's and Pretzel Time. Both businesses had failed to adapt to the local culture in ways that made the restaurants seem off-putting to the local Chinese population. There are also developments within the local dining industry of Chinese fast food industries. One such example is Dar Jia Li, which translates into Big Happy House. This provides stiff competition for our company. Businesses that have integrated their restaurants into China have shown that they have to adapt to this culture. And one interesting subtlety is the fact that the Chinese palate does not exactly call for dairy. In fact, for the longest time, dairy was rejected in China, but now some people are eating it. So this must be considered when creating menu items, because if the menu is heavy on dairy, then it's likely that the population will not go for those menu items. However, there should be a fair balance because it shows that some people are currently eating it. And if we're not offering any, those people will not have anything that they'd like to order.
As we know, about 2/3 of Levendary's 3,500 stores were franchised by 2011. Chief Franchise Officer Peter Steele led the franchise team to recruit new franchisees, support existing franchisees, and enforce brand and operating standards in franchise stores. One of the most important aspects of achieving success in a franchising business is having the ability to adapt to different geographical regions. This is something that Levendary utilized to differentiate itself amongst competition. With stores across all 50 states, Levendary focused on meeting the diverse needs of its customers without grouping them into the American consumer category. Menus were adapted to meet the specific needs of people in different regions, which increased the company's chance to gain business against competitors like McDonald's, who offer standardized menus throughout the country. Constantly updating product offerings is another means of success in the franchising business. Levendary continuously evolves its product offerings to remain up to date with modern health trends. Offering ingredients such as quinoa and pomegranates appeals to health-conscious consumers and keeps them coming back for more. These ingredients are significantly different than those found at others in the quick service segment, such as KFC, Wendy's, McDonald's, and Pizza Hut. Finally, another major factor that influences a franchise's growth is its commitment to its customers. Levendary centers its culture on the idea of delighting the customer. Rather than focusing solely on profit, employees are directed to make a positive impact on consumers' lives that makes them want to keep coming back. Financial challenges that franchises must overcome include additional royalties, which add 3 to 6% to costs, additional marketing fees, and high overhead costs.
As Levendary Cafe begins to expand its international business and consider its managerial aspects and operations within a new country, this being China, there are certain implications that it must consider. Firstly, Levendary Cafe must be flexible. It must adhere and adapt to the Chinese culture. One example of a company that had tried to integrate into the Chinese culture and failed to do so is Pretzel Time, which had kept its standard appearance that in the US and in China was white tile. The white tile was the standard norm and branding for Pretzel Time. However, when it was brought to China, many Chinese had thought that this tile had resembled a bathroom appearance and thus did not want to eat in the business. This made the business ultimately fail, which is a valuable lesson for Levendary Cafe to consider while they're working on their operations within China. Secondly, Levendary Cafe must be aggressive in its operations. Local competition does exist in China and it cannot be brushed off. There's competition provided by both local eateries as well as expatriated restaurants that have gone to China. Chinese managers must be empowered so that they can act swiftly to address certain issues that arise. Issues such as customer service and decor are issues that, while on a small level can be dealt with and mitigated, can grow and ultimately become an international crisis for the company, leading to the company's failure. So these are just a few implications that Levendary Cafe must consider while it's working on its Chinese operations.
China develops 5-year plans, which is a key characteristic of socialist economies. For the year 2011, this is China's 12th 5-year plan. The targets for the 12-year plan were to grow GDP by 8%, 7% annual growth of per capita income, spent 2.2% of GDP on research and development by 2015, readjust income distribution to stop the yawning gap, which is the difference between the rich and the poor, curb the excessive rise of housing prices, implement prudent monetary policy, intensify anti-corruption efforts, accelerate economic restructuring, and deal with the complex situations in development. Some positives for this, for Levendary Cafe coming into China, would be that there are plans to increase economic growth. There are a large amount of upper middle class citizens, and that number is growing, which would mean more people buying their products at their price point. The negatives potentially for this would be China wanting to bring the population down below 1.39 billion in 2015, which would be less people potentially buying their products. And with this new plan, they want to build their buildings with eco-friendly products, which would be more costly to build when they're trying to expand, but would be better for the long term.
Chen is an efficient entrepreneur who understands Chinese language and culture and who is helpful for navigating business there. Ideally, the company does not want to lose him, but he may not be suited for his current role. Chen should be taken out of the managerial role, which is currently stale to him and existing outside of Foster's formal command. Foster should promote Chen to the VP of the China branch. This will keep him from being disgruntled, and the integration will also add Chen to Foster's formal chain of command. One fun fact about our presentation is that all of the scenic pictures were taken during Hannah's trip to China. Thank you very much for listening to our presentation.
The photos on our presentation were Hannah's personal photos from her trip to China. The one photo of China's 5-year plans is cited here.